This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is best Ultrabooks for 2016 and early 2017, because some of these just came out. They already refreshed with Intel 7th Gen CPUs. They're going to carry on through the spring of 2017. And, you know, like I said in best and worst things I would pick in laptops video, that was a very popular one. You're not cookie cutter people, so there's going to be a variety of these for each of you, including some more affordable ones. Now, Intel's definition of an Ultrabook is something that's around 13.3 inches, up to about 14 inches. That's very thin, very light, has an SSD and an Intel CPU inside. Duh, right? Intel came up with the name Ultrabook, so that's generally speaking the kind of things that we're going to look at here. But we're going to throw in a few surprises too, and some that are considerably less expensive, but still really actually meet that definition. We're going to find out which ones are the best now. Pick a laptop, any laptop, right? Fortunately, we still have several of these in-house that we can actually show you again and talk about them. And everything except for one model are ones that we've reviewed. So you can find videos and, generally speaking, written reviews on mobiletechreview.com as well if you want to learn more about each of these. We're just going to, cover the highlights of each model and why you should consider it. We're not going to go in-depth into every one again. Now, to start with, for those of you who are on a tight budget, the usual Ultrabook rule of thumb is starting around $1,000 for a current model, $1,000, which is kind of a lot of money. Now, this is the only one that we don't have a review of on our channel, but I have used it extensively, and that's the HP Pavilion X360 13.3-inch Ultrabook, $700, and you get Intel 7th generation Core i5 CPU, 8 gigs of RAM, and a 128 gig SSD for the price. The build quality is quite nice on it, especially given the price. And of course, it's X360, so it's a convertible. It can do a traditional laptop mode, it can do tent mode, it can do tablet mode. It's 3.5 pounds. It's not as thin and as pretty as HP Spectre line, but you're saving some money. So for those of you who just, not everybody can spend that much money, it's worth looking at. The next one is the Asus Zenbook UX305, which we actually reviewed in 2015. It's still around. You can still buy it from retailers, and the price has gone down some. And really, it's aging well. It's still pretty current. It's a 13.3-inch traditional laptop or Ultrabook design. You get the usual aluminum casing that Asus is known for with their Zenbook line. It's an Intel Core M, so it's for those of you who don't need to do a lot of heavy lifting. It's fine for browsing the web, streaming video, Word, Excel, social networking, and your occasional photo editing too. But it's not meant for those of you who are Photoshop jockeys or doing video edits or compiling big programs day in, day out. It's an Intel Core M. It sits below the Core I series of CPUs. You should be able to find that one for $600 or less. And then for those of you who want the convertible version, there's the Zenbook UX360CA. That one's basically the convertible design. Right now, Microsoft Store has it on sale for $499. Also Core M. Pretty much you're looking at the same machine, just with the convertible hinge design. And both of those are 1080p displays. The UX305 is non-touch, and as you would guess, the convertible 360 is a touchscreen. Next up, well, beauty and beauty in this case. There's the Lenovo Yoga 910 and the HP Spectre X360, both Intel 7th generation Kaby Lake Core i5, Core i7 CPUs, both thin and light, both convertibles. The Lenovo's claim to fame is this beautiful watch band hinge here. And it's a close race between these two. Honestly, we have a smackdown between them. The Spectre X360 gets the props for having Thunderbolt 3 ports. The Lenovo gets props for the 4K display. And like I said in my review, it's not that you really need 4K with a display as small as 13.9 inches, but it's a better quality display. Wow, the color saturation and the contrast is just like eye candy, that 4K display option. Now, with the Yoga 910, it's been infamous for having fan noise, and Lenovo did issue a BIOS update that helped. And by the way, the HP gets a little props back for starting about $150 less than the Lenovo. Of course, they also offer lower-end configurations like Core i5. Lenovo's currently only doing Core i7 right now. Both of them have 1080p displays for their base models, priced around $1,000, more like $1,100 for the Yoga. But there's some pretty neat deals, like the Yoga available at the glass lid at Best Buy gets you really top-dog specs, like a 512 gig SSD and a glass lid instead of aluminum if you like, that sort of thing, Core i7. So there's all sorts of deals to be had, particularly right now. And let's be predictable, the Dell XPS 13, everybody's favorite Ultrabook, top ranked, and we like it too, and it's aging well. This is really the third refresh now that we're on Intel Kaby Lake here. The wonderful thing about this is how small and light it is. There are other 2.8-pound Ultrabooks on the market, but this one has the footprint of more like a 12-inch. So it's very compact, quality aluminum build. You got this nice soft touch finish in here. You can get it with a 1080p matte non-touch display. You can get it with a QHD plus touchscreen. A lot of options, backlit keyboard. That said, there's room for improvement here with Dell. You get the nice bezel-less display, the infinity display as they call it. I'd like to see them either add a Windows Hello camera, which might be impossible because they have to do the chin cam thing since there's no room up top with that no bezel design, or at least like a fingerprint scanner. And the keyboard could stand a little bit more tweaking and improvement. It's okay keyboard, but it's low travel and a little bit harsh. When you hit down here, it's like, oh man, your fingers are going to get a little blister eventually. I'm exaggerating, but it's still one of the nicest conventional laptops. It does not do calisthenics, it does not yoga, it does only act like a laptop. Next up, and perhaps even controversial for some of you, for those of you who love Mac OS, there's a 13-inch MacBook Pro with the function bar, FN bar, not the touch bar. That one is $14.99 plus dongles, and Apple's extended their half-price dongle sale through March. Clearly, they feel the need to do that. We know why. Anyway, it's now the cheapest, other than the 12-inch, almost specialty 12-inch Mac that you can buy. And granted, it's more expensive than the MacBook Air that Apple thinks it's replacing, the Air with. That was about $1,000 starting price, but cheapest point of entry, and you get a good dual-core 15-watt CPU. The touch bar, it's cute, it's entertaining. I don't see that it's a must-have feature, so why pay for it? But if you do want to move up a little bit, the touch bar model does get you a 28-watt CPU, which is the usual MacBook Pro 13-inch CPU, versus the 15-watt typical Ultrabook CPU instead that's in the base model. But honestly, for most things, that base MacBook Pro is enough horsepower, unless you really are seriously into Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing, all that sort of thing, where you're probably maybe even thinking about getting the 15-inch anyway, given how close the high-end 13-inch and the 15-inch are in pricing. Speaking of the 12-inch MacBook, there is the Windows version of that, and that is the Asus Zenbook 3. Oh man, I had such a crush on this when we reviewed it. It's the classic, beautiful-looking 12-inch MacBook, only made by ASUS, with just as much attention to detail. They really nailed it. That one-touch opening of the lid, beautiful fit and finish, metal design, extremely light. In fact, a little bit lighter than a 12-inch MacBook. And even more impressive, they have full Intel Core i5 and i7 CPUs, not the low-power Core M that's in the 12-inch MacBook. So for those of you who need more horsepower and are okay having a fan in your laptop because the Core M is fanless, well, that's really quite an accomplishment there. Battery life is pretty decent on it too, 6-7 hours or so, but not as good as a 12-inch MacBook, which is now the only MacBook that has really stellar battery life left in Apple's lineup, but still that's plenty enough, I think, for a lot of people out there. Next up, the Ultrabook that really technically isn't an Ultrabook. This is Surface Pro 4. It's unusual because obviously it's also a tablet, 12.2-inch display. The detachable keyboard, called the type cover, starts around $1,000 with a type cover. But a lot of you are already using this instead of buying an Ultrabook because, well, it is very versatile. It's really compact. It's easy to carry around. You got all the performance of an Ultrabook in here. i5, i7 CPUs, Core M, the whole gamut going on there. But you get that beautiful high-resolution display there. One of my favorite displays, actually. It's natural. It's vivid. It's great for photo editing. I like this keyboard too a lot. It's very easy to use. Call me crazy, but I actually like it better than the Dell XPS 13's keyboard. Now, it's been out since October 2015. At some point, Microsoft's going to refresh it. Who knows how much is going to change at that point? I don't know. And Microsoft isn't one of the hardware OEMs that cranks out something new every 3 months. So they typically take a long time to refresh. So who knows when there'll be a Surface Pro 5. But in the meantime, Pro 4 is one of my favorites for stunning display, portability, a very usable keyboard actually, nice, no bloatware build, and look at the pen on the left there. I like the pen. You note takers, you artists, there you have it. And honorable mention to Surface Book, which I didn't include, even though it's one of my favorite portables, but its price tag and the optional dedicated graphics move it out of the usual $1,000 dual-core integrated graphics Ultrabook kind of scheme of thing. However, honorable mention there, it's still 13.5 inches. It's still like an Ultrabook. There is even one without dedicated graphics if you want. And it's for those of you who want a more traditional laptop form factor. It still has a detachable screen, but the base feels and acts just like a regular laptop. Next up, the ThinkPad X1 Yoga with OLED display, particularly though the IPS models are pretty nice. But when it comes to OLED, this is one of the very few laptops on the market that's available with an OLED display. And oh my, the colors. But beyond that, 2.8 pounds, 14 inches. It's really portable, but it's ThinkPad Durable. Oh my goodness, did I just do that? Look, it's fine. Of course it's fine, right? The table is going to get a mark first. It has plenty of legacy ports. You have HDMI, you have DisplayPort, you have regular USB-C, you have Lenovo's docking connector. It charges quickly too. There's no USB-C or Thunderbolt 3. That might come in the 2017 refresh of this. Who knows? Maybe it won't either. But since you have the docking connector, that's obviated a little bit. Intel Core i5 and i7 CPUs, a variety of SSDs available, up to 16 gigs of RAM, SD card slot on the back, and, well, what's this over here? You got the little pen. Ta-da! This is about the only one that has a pen that still lives in a silo. If you want a bigger pen for $40, you can get the ThinkPad external pen. This is a Wacom AES digitizer inside, which is one of my favorite digitizers, actually. The initial force of activation, that is how sensitive it is when you first set the pen down and start writing, is the most iPad Pro-like for those of you who prefer to not have to use as much initial activation force as you do, say, with something like Surface Pro 4, the ones that use N-Trig. All in all, it's fantastic. If you get it with the IPS display right now, it's selling for around $1,250 starting price, but the OLED models are hard to find, and they're more like $1,800 or so, because they're not being discounted as much. So there you have it, the best of the Ultrabooks, the ones that you can actually do this without like turning red and going, oh. Yeah, so there are others, honorable mention to the Samsung Notebook 9 series, for example. There are ones that are not quite, Ultrabooks, but they're still possibly worth considering, even though they're bigger, more powerful, more expensive, like the Microsoft Surface Book, like I mentioned. Then there is some of the slim and light gamers for you who need more horsepower, but those technically are not exactly Ultrabooks, so that's why they're not here. And, there are a lot of laptops I actually liked a lot that we didn't include here, because we can't include them all. We have to narrow it down to some of the ones that have the top specs, the nicest performance, are pretty stable, all that sort of thing. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel in 2017 for way more cool tech videos. And thumbs up if you liked it.